Al-Attiyah, together with your distinguished colleagues from Qatar. Welcome to Dr. Fatih Birol, Executive Director of the International Energy Agency, and to your colleagues at the IEA. Welcome to ambassadors, diplomatic colleagues, energy experts, and all those watching today's proceedings. My name is Brian Pontifex, and I'm the Australian Ambassador to the OECD. I'm proud to welcome you to the Australian Embassy in France to participate in the IEA's Big Ideas Distinguished Speakers Series. I'm pleased to say that Australia enjoys a friendly and fast-developing bilateral relationship with Qatar, underpinned by commercial ties. Qatar opened an embassy in Canberra in 2012, and Australia appointed its first resident ambassador to Qatar in July this year. I'm very much looking forward to hearing from our distinguished speaker today about the liquefied natural gas industry in Qatar, given His Excellency's central leadership role in establishing and creating the most significant LNG producing nation in the world. That makes for a very impressive CV. Everything about the LNG industry is big. The scale and complexity of the engineering and the sheer magnitude of the investment required that enables exploration, development and production of LNG is truly impressive. This is an industry where expenditures on developing a project often reach into the tens of billions rather than the millions. Within Australia, the big LNG developments are, in every sense, nation-building projects. I had the pleasure of working in the industry for a short period, and believe me, the foundation LNG projects in Australia source gas from far offshore in inhospitable conditions, only to be piped onshore to very remote parts of the Australian continent for processing, where the gas is cooled to minus 161 degrees Celsius, thereby creating a liquid, making the product easier to transport and store. Easy to say, but it's an extraordinarily complex and costly undertaking to do. I sense there are some parallels between the LNG development story in Australia and in Qatar. And of course, I have to acknowledge that Qatar is the world leader in LNG production. That said, Your Excellency, we in Australia remain determined to catch up to Qatar's impressive record one day. Thank you again for attending this event, and it's now my great pleasure and honour to invite the Executive Director of the IEA, Dr. Fatih Birol, to formally introduce His Excellency to you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador, and our great appreciation for the Australian government for opening the doors for the IEA to be able to host a great man, Mr. Al-Attiyah. You will see in the next few minutes, ladies and gentlemen, we will learn a lot about history of gas, history of OPEC, and also history of the energy world in the next 1 hour we have. We have here Mr. Al-Attiyah, ambassadors of the several countries which I greet here. Many colleagues from the IEA are colleagues here, and I see also a very distinguished former colleague, our former executive director, Mr. Claude Mandil. Mr. Mandil, very nice to see you. And we are inviting, as many of you know, several top thinkers, businessmen, statesmen to IEA to talk about their experiences, to get inspiration from them, to learn from them as International Energy Agency, and to get to know them a bit better. This time we have the great honor to have His Excellency Abdullah bin Hamad Al-Attiyah. He's, as we all know, he was a Deputy Prime Minister for a very long time, and he was the Energy and Industry Minister, so over almost 2 decades of time. I can say many things about His Excellency, but one thing very simple, he's the father of LNG. So very simple, the father of LNG. When we talk about the LNG business today, When we look at the IEA's own analysis, the share of LNG is growing across the world, becomes a very important contributor to global energy picture. And it all started, we will hear, a few decades ago, and the father of that very revolution is with us today. So it's a great honor, Your Excellency, having you with us today. We are also very happy, together with His Excellency, to have also his colleague, Honorable Nasser Al-Jadeh. He is also the member of the board of the foundation that Mr. Al-Attiyah built. I am sure we will hear about that foundation, which is a very interesting and not a very, I would say, a usual move in the region. Such a statement comes up with such an important project, and we will be very happy to hear from that project as well. Mr. Al-Attiyah not only changed or put his stamp on the global energy picture, but he did, if I may say so, Your Excellency, you changed the destination of a nation. When I think Qatar, without LNG today, if you have the subtract LNG gas from Qatar, what would have been is, of course, I leave it to your imagination, but as such, he also changed the destination of a very important nation. We will be discussing with His Excellency. I will be asking him some questions. In fact, to be honest with you, I don't need to ask questions. You will see he's one of the best speakers in the world. So he will. I will try to intervene from time to time if I dare and can do. But he will be talking us about energy, and I know he in his spare time he also reads fishes that I didn't know, and even more importantly, he likes football. We will come to that, Mr. Al-Attiyah, there as well. So please, Excellencies, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, join me to welcome His Excellency Al-Attiyah. His Excellency, if I can start with the first question. I mentioned that my view that you changed the destiny of a nation. When you look at the last almost 4 decades, because you started, I think, early 70s, this important move, what do you see? What is the biggest achievement you made in terms of the gas, but in terms of the recent history of Qatar?
Oh, thank you very much, Dr. Fatih, for this good introduction. I would like to thank the Ambassador of Australia to host us in his nice embassy. And I know the relationship between Qatar and Asia and Australia in a good mood. Sometimes we compete in LNG, but always we work together. So that this is a normal. I'm very happy to see also my old guard, Crodmandale, my old and other good faces that I know them before. And maybe new faces, I am very proud to know them now. Yes, when I joined the ministry, that time they called it Ministry of Finance and Oil. In 1972, I was so young. I just came from USA, from Michigan school. So the challenge of me, why? By the time, oil is the only resource for Qatar, so everyone has the advantage if he can work in the Ministry of Finance and Oil. So I did, and I find myself after a few months I was chosen to be a delegation of Qatar delegation in OPEC. So yes, I went to Vienna for the first time. I was so young. I was in the back seat. But I was so to see these big guys, Sheikh Yamani, Amos Gar, all over, that's big guys who, playing Saadun Hamad from Iraq and others. I said, they are the guy who, the time the engineering, and OPEC was founded in Iraq in 1960 only to challenge IOC. as IA was founded in the 70s to challenge OPEC. So everyone challenge everyone. So anyway, that's, the challenge sometimes is...
Australia comes to challenge Qatar.
Well, I know we need them to challenge. So the time, we say, okay, years, and then I saw the first oil shock in 1973. I saw the oil price in 81, $46. In real term today, and value of the dollar of today is $150. I saw in 85, $7. I saw in 81, I saw a lot of smiles in OPEC. In 85, I saw a lot of tears from OPEC. Just 3 years changed the whole scenarios, from big smile to tears. So take us from 85 to 2002, when the price of oil go back again, the average of oil in 15 years not exceed $17. It's a long history, but I will not take you to the history. I don't want to take you, to weigh how this is. We will leave it in the future. Maybe I will write as he asked me for my next book. I said I will start to write a book about OPEC and about others. In 1992, I've been appointed a Minister of Energy and Industry. They segregate oil from finance. They have a new ministry. They call it Energy and Industry. At that time, when I became a minister, my challenge was what I should do. The oil price is below $10. Total production of our oil production not exceed 350,000 barrels at all. My government was telling me, you'll be alone. Don't come to ask us for financing or for equities. We have no money. Challenge by yourself. We don't want to see you talking to us to raise funds because we don't have it. And I don't blame them, because at the time we are the smallest oil producers in OPEC. And sometimes at that time I ask myself why we are in OPEC, where we are only the small producers in OPEC.
You can move to IEA if you want.
And then I said, okay, this is the challenge. Let's to see. Yeah, what we have beside that, we know that the North Field was discovered by Shell, 1971. But that time, it was shock to Shell. Is gas, not oil. It was shock to the government. Is gas, not oil. No one looked for oil. It's a big, huge hydrocarbon reserve.
No one looked for gas.
Yeah, huh?
No one.
No one looking for gas.
No market.
Only for oil. Gas is a bad news. So Shell asked, right to the government at that time. This is I was in Michigan that time. I was in school, but when I came back, I started, to read the history. So the Shell said to the government, "Take it. We relinquish, the agreement. We are walk out. This is the result. Is gas." So it was shock. So it was so long sleep, very carefully for 20 years or more. Then when I become, our challenge is gas. No way to discover a new discovery of oil. We did later on, but in that time is only our challenge is gas. But first, we are far away from the classical LNG market. Secondly, among the Gulf in that time, no one wants gas through pipeline. Everyone has oil in that time. Everyone converted even oil to their power to everything. So I told my people, my strategy is only to bring the first customer, or what I call them the first lover. Then we will move. So we discussed and we see that at the time, who is the biggest LNG consumer in Asia? Is Japan. So we started, my first visit to Japan, trying to convince the Japanese but they ask us, what your experience? You're zero in LNG producer, you have no experience. So we say, okay, we will bring a partners together with us who has long experience in LNG. So we can make, a good team that give you a confidence. So anyway, after it's a long history. I go back and down and go to try, discuss with the Japanese with the expected. Then we find a good customer who trusts us. It's Chubu Electric. Chubu Electric, one of the biggest power producers in Japan, in Nagoya. So we signed the first contract with Chubu for 6 million tons. And then when we signed that time, we have no money to build it, or to our equity at least. So we went back to Japan. I visited Exim Bank many, many times, and we discussed, and then the Japanese finally agreed to finance the downstreams with $2 billion at that time. It's okay, this is the mainstream, but the upstream is the easiest way to finance it. But so the time we agreed that the Japanese, they segregated downstreams from upstreams. And then we agreed in with that, and then finally we succeed to build Qatar Gas. I was sure and confident that there will be another customers, but he was waiting for us. He doesn't want to be the first. He wants to be the second. He wants to be the trust. Then finally, Korea came after Japan. So they signed another 5 million tons. So Taiwan came. So then I had India. It's a big market. And they say to me, don't play with India. You will never succeed. They will never buy LNG. They never get used it. We say, I say, it's a big market, let's to go. China and India is my main aspect also. They are a big market. They are, both of them, they have 1/3 of the whole population in the world. And they will grow fast. So we signed with China 5 million tons, and we signed the biggest single LNG contract I ever signed is with India, 8 million tons. So then we look after, Taiwan for sure, I say, and then Thailand came. So we find ourselves that we are doing now, in just 4 years. I was so happy to see in 4 years, where that time I was so, very, very conscious. What will we do if we failed? What we do if we have no customers? At the time also, the challenge was, no one will do it except because that time the oil price was very low. So the gas, LNG was very low too. So we have the challenge for the future. We say the future will change. Never will be very low. This is the cycle. But this to build it in the low case, this to have a good customer, then we are lucky that the cost of building was very cheap. The cost of building of ships was very competitive. So we built the first 10 ships of LNG. Then we start to build more ships. And then we have we work with our partner and the innovations, how we can reduce the cost. First, we came to the ships. At that time, the biggest ship of LNG, 155,000 cubic feet. So then we start to build the biggest new types. The first one, we call it Qatar Flex. It's 210,000 cubic feet. The other type, we call it Qatar Max, Q-Max, or Qatar. It's 265,000 cubic feet. So totally, then we say we built 54 ships from all kinds, including Q-Flex and Q-Max. So I decided to create a company. It's called Qatar Gas Transportation Company. And to own the ship, to operate it, and then we take this company to Qatar stock and exchange, and we privatization the company. We sell the share to anyone. So now today it's the biggest gas transportation company in the whole world.
Exactly, not only production but also transportation.
Yes,
You are the
because you
number one
have
in terms
to have the whole flexibility.
Exactly.
Because
Exactly.
this is what I faced the first time in Qatar Gas. I noticed it. Once we have extra production, we need to buy spot. We have a customer who has, but there's no ship in the market.
Yes.
So we find out without ships, without company, then we will be not flexible. We will be under, the control that when you find customer, but you don't find ships. This is help us in many cases later on. We became the most flexible, the biggest LNG producers in the world with 77 million tons. And we operate the biggest ships in the world also. So we have the most flexibility, and then we serve our customers without searching where empty ship in the market. In that time, there were big shortage of LNG ships in the market.
This is definitely what you say, Your Excellency, and what you tell us, this brief history, proves that what I said, what the people say, you are the father of LNG is definitely a very well-deserved one. But now, from past the future, shale gas. Australia, Mr. Ambassador mentioned, United States are bringing some gas to the markets. Do you see it somehow will challenge the position of Qatar in the next years to come?
Oh, I think, I've been asked many times, do you believe that shale gas will compete with gas? My answer is different. I say gas never compete with gas. Gas compete with other resources, with coal, with nuclear, with other. But gas cannot compete with gas. Even shale gas or conventional gas, in the end of the day, is a gas. In that time, the big concern in the world, the shortage of gas, that cannot be enough to the world. So they start many countries to switch or to create an alternative, because everyone thought that gas is only the reserve not exceed 70, 80 years in the whole world, the conventional gas. Today, shale gas and conventional gas, if you mix it, can take you to 200 years or so. So it gives more confidence in customers and trust in gas. Today you see how this gas now changed the whole map of the world. Now they are mostly in USA, 50% of their power came from coal. Now they switch more to gas. Now even Europe, even Asia, even the gas has become more competitive. So even now, in Qatar, even with this, what they call it, the complications, now we find a new market. You will not believe that today we are selling LNG to our neighbors, to Kuwait and Dubai. You will not, today we have a new big customers, Pakistan. We signed 2 big contracts. Today we have now negotiation, Jordan, Bangladesh, and others for another big contracts. Today, the needs of huge gas in the Gulf and the Middle East, it's in our back door, because mostly they have, even Saudi Arabia, they use a lot of crude oil in produce power. Even in Kuwait, same. So they have to replace it with gas. Is a more competitive, more clean, and they can release their oil from power. They always say, when you use your oil or naphtha in power, as you wash your car by Scotch whiskey every morning. So this is the difference, is a more competitive, more clean. Then you can release more value, sell it in as the oil and added value for products, better than you just burn it. And also you create a lot of pollution. So I'm not afraid at all. I will tell you an example how we will be benefited also. We signed with ExxonMobil a big contract to supply USA with LNG. In that time, the LNG in USA reached $15 or $17 each million BTU. So we built the biggest LNG terminal, regasification terminal in the whole United States. We call it the Golden Pass in Texas. Can treat 15 million tons. Okay, Nasser? And but unfortunately, even ExxonMobil, even the biggest IOC, even all with their analysts, they always underestimated shale gas. Just 2 years from start to build and to try to commissioning, the gas dropped the Henry Hub from $70 to $2. And and I asked once ExxonMobil, I said, "Oh, you are the biggest oil company. You never understand. You always, and with a lot of analysts, a lot of economists, technicians. They don't they always underestimate shale gas. Finally, shale gas was destroying the whole conventional gas. Now, what we should do with our terminal in USA? I discussed with Exxon, and I say, this the biggest terminal. We have to, see how to use it. We don't want just to leave it for a tourist in Texas. See the biggest LNG terminal who never been worked. We can take students to learn this. We don't want to end up with an experimental. So we decided. I proposed to ExxonMobil also, why we don't convert it to export LNG from USA. Only additional cost. The pipes there, the terminal there, the port there, the power there, the tanks there. Only how to change regasification to gasification. So by additional cost, we can convert the whole facilities to export LNG. Now the good news is both sides, Qatar Petroleum and ExxonMobil, agreed. Now they are in the process. They got the license. Now in the processing. Hopefully, if everything is nothing is surprise, is by 22, 21 can be in production. And this is okay. It's a good advantage because in the time you can produce it, you can also we can, to change also our philosophy. This gas can go to, for instance, can go to Europe and other parts, and we can swap our gas from to Europe to Asia, so we can to swap, and we become, because we export also a lot of gas to Europe, to Spain, to Italy, to France, to UK. Now 30% of UK consumption came from Qatar. We built a big regasification in Wales, in South Hawk, and I am very, very happy. I was there during the inauguration. We asked our former the Amir father, and Her Majesty the Queen Elizabeth. They were attending our big ceremony in Wales, and now it's one of our best operation in whole Europe. And also we supply Spain, we supply many Italian, and now also Poland. So we have a big portion from our LNG in Europe too. Also we sold a lot of cargoes to Brazil, to Mexico, to Argentina, to Chile, to many countries. Once they asked me, Mr. Minister, what do you think about pipeline vis-a-vis LNG? I said, I have a pipeline, but it's floating. And I have the biggest pipeline in the world, but it's a floating pipeline. And I believe LNG is more flexible, that we can divert it. Even in Japan, when they had this big ceremony and the earthquake in north of Japan, they forced to close all nuclear power, 34. So we will be blackout. So they asked us to sell more LNG, we diverted to them just in weeks, because we have the ships, we have the quantity, we diverted to them millions of tons. In 1 month, we increased it from 8 or 7 to 15 million tons. So this is how the flexibility and how you serve your customers. Because every time when I see Japanese, I said, you know, you are my first lover. First lover, you never forget it. Maybe second lover, third lover, you will miss it, but first lover, you never miss it. You always talk about it.
Mr. Your Excellency, from lovers to oil, if I can go here. Because Qatar is rather, compared to other OPEC countries, is a modest producer of oil.
Yeah.
But thanks to you, your leadership, Qatar was always very influential in the OPEC decisions, OPEC meetings. Now, when you look at the picture today in terms of the oil prices and so on, do you see what is the challenge for the producers? Because it's also changing the oil picture.
Oh, I think, you know, you see the problem. I mean, I don't call it a problem, but because I've been live with OPEC more than 40 years, and I know the whole history about, you see, this is not the first time and not the last time. But, you know, sometimes many people, they have short memory. When they see oil price go up, they forget the last, they never remember what happened before. So always they believe, oh, it take us by surprise. I said to people, it's not surprising. Go back, see, in 73 to 81 to 85 to 90. It's normally that you have a cycle. Normally you have oil always go up. If you see the oil trading history in the last 100 years, you see it's going fluctuation. Go up, 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 and then finally go down, then takes few, and then go up and go down. This is the index, you know. So if you have strong memory, you will understand it will be happening again. So now, when the oil price fell down suddenly that time, again some analysts, again some speculation. You remember some speculation, some bank, they were expected that oil will reach $200. And that time, you know, they asked me about that, and I said, they are speculation only. Don't listen to them. Oil, even that time I was announced very strongly, front of OPEC, when the oil price was $115, I said this is a very dangerous price. It will be against the producers, not with the producers. Because even the producer, they have to understand that they need a healthy customers. You don't kill your customers. You don't make them weak. Make him, you know, and then they told me in that time what the reasonable price. I said is from 80 to 75 to 80. This is the best price at that time. So even some of them, they attack me, you know, some producers, they say, oh, you are why? And I said, you know, oil price will go down and sharply. And then ask me why. Because you have to understand, when the oil go up, 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 and reach the top ceiling, then it's a pyramids theory. When you walk in the pyramids, you take a long time to reach the top, but when you go down, very sharply, and maybe you break your neck. And this is what happened. Now, most of oil producers now, they believe that they break their neck. They jump from the top to finally, and now the oil price is what? If you take it to real term, in 45 or 49 or 46, take it back the night, it's $15, $16. We went back in the real term as well the normal. Now, what they should do? Okay, OPEC in that time in 80s and 90s, we were the swinger producers, because we control 60% of the export market. So we sit in Vienna or in Geneva later on, we sit, we create quota, we create band, we create all what you believe. Quota first, and then we create band 22, 28, and then we say, oh, we didn't work with the quota because some cheating, just to move. And then we start to invite in the 90s the non-OPEC to come to Vienna, at least to help us. Oh, they came. They gave us a nice speech, strong speech. We support you, and then they leave. They want us to cut. So they give us a good support, but no. So, and I, at that time, I've been elected as president once, because I've been elected many times as president of OPEC, and I say, why we should invite them? We waste time. We listen for them for 2 hours, giving us a speech, and then they leave. So it's, otherwise, we should cook it before they come. If they agreed, we invite them. If they don't agree, we should not invite them. You know, this is the problem, you know. They enjoy Vienna, nice Vienna opera, I don't know, they go shopping, they go, but they enjoy it. And even some, I will not tell names, but some, even I find out, some oil non-OPEC producers, sometimes they call me, please invite us, invite me, the minister, you know, they want to come to Vienna. So we say that, okay, now, and then we say, let's concentrate only in 2 or 3 major ones, Russia, Mexico, and Norway. So it's to bring them, you know, as the major also oil producer, you know, more than to bring many, a lot of chief, no Indians, many small oil producers, they will not even to contribute to you. So then we had, you know, that what they call the famous meeting between Saudi minister and Mexico and Norway, somewhere in Europe, they call it. And then when they talk about, you know, how, you know, then the second one, how to bring, you know, together, how, you know, the way that Norway said, okay, we are with you, but, you know, we are OECD, we cannot cut. You say, but we are suffering from low price. So even the Mexico, they say, okay, we can't cut, but we can. The Russian promised 100,000 barrel or 200,000 barrel, but no one promising. No one trusts each other, you know, because they say, who trusts each other? OPEC members sometimes also they cheat. So they say, who will trust you? But we were working on OPEC, and you know this inside story. So the way that in that time we see, now, let us to see now what they will do. Now, OPEC cannot be swinger producer no more, because their share less than 30% now in the market. It's changed. Cannot, you know, unless they have a support from big players. You know, the same big players, you know, how they can, Russia or whatever, you know, how they can deal with it, you know, how they can to balance it. Now, if you see the market today is 2.5 million barrel oversupply, the inventory in the highest in history, more than 9 billion barrel, including SPR, commercial, and floating SPR. So if you calculate 9 billion plus oversupply, now the problem today, in that time when OPEC cut production trying to balance the demand and supply, OPEC can't control that type the market to say how they observe the oversupply. But today the oversupply is not come from OPEC, come from shale oil, come from other producers. So the problem in how to balance it. Now you are under fire, both of them. If you today, now what the proposal today, that OPEC next November is to freeze the ceiling. This is one of the proposals. But which ceiling? When Libya and Nigeria still, they never reach their ceiling. They are about 2 million barrels. This still, they are because of the, but if assuming after 1 month, 2 months, and for sure they will come back again, to see they want to back to. So they will drop the market more than to another 2 million or 3 million. Then it will be another challenge. Okay, to cut the production, who will cut the production? Even if you cut the production and then the oil price go up to over 55, 56, then the shale oil comes back again very strongly. So it will be the game as mouse and cat. But you don't know who's Tom and who's Jerry. How they will play it together. How oil against oil. How if the shale oil, you know, most of shale oil now in the United States is the installation there. And just they wait for when the oil price, they can bring a rig, and Baker Hughes, they will tell you next day, 5 rigs add to the market, 10 rigs add to the market, then they start to produce more oil, more shale gas. So then, as I say, then they will play with each other, you know. And I said, as the bounce of the cat, who's Tom and who's Jerry, but then still, you know, it will be very confused. Now, for OPEC and for the non-OPEC producers, in how to deal with it. I think when the oil price will be low, it will hurt even consumers in the future. Because then many projects being postponed, and thousands of good engineers being fired. When you take them back, when the time the world have a shortage of, and they could, you know, then the oil price will go up. Then there is, you know, to go back for a new project, then it takes years. Also, we face it after 2000. In that time, we were looking good engineers. There is no one in the market. It's a big shortage because at the time, many of them, they converted to IT, to finance, to accounting. This is the time this is the market force. Now, it will come to the same scenario. So OPEC, it has a lot of challenge. How they will deal with shale oil, how they will deal with, you know, oversupply, how will deal, you know, to freeze. And also in OPEC, there are a lot of challenge among themselves. Some countries, they said, we want to go to our historical scene. Some people, they will say we will go back to our market. So that sometimes you ask where, when, what is the means of historical and what it means of maximum production. Okay, sometimes oil is always depleted. Sometimes country used to be, for instance, 7 million tons, but because of the depletion, they are 2. Maybe then they discover another oil, they would say go back to 7 million tons. So it seems to be that is a very, you know, I met many oil ministers. I met General Secretary Hamad in London last night. I met, you know, to discuss, you know, how they will deal. I know very well. I was in OPEC for many years as a delegate or the ministers, and I know how we deal in the quotas. We know how, but that time is easy to deal with ourselves. Now, to deal with other oil or to deal with the OPEC with a low share in the market, how they will deal. Now they say that Russia is willing to talk, and they met, you know, in Algeria, and they met now. They say now how they will deal, and what it means of sealing when they are agreed that to freeze sealing, and for how long. Now, if you see the price of oil yesterday jumped WIT 52. 52 is only what I call it, with my experience, is a psychological oil price. There is no demand. There is no fundamental demand. How an oil, you know, will increase back, but there is no fundamental of oil. It's only a speculation. Today we calculate in the speculation and the future market. Every 20 barrel paper oil, 20 barrel against 1 barrel actual barrel. You see how the gap between paper's oil, who just you buy it in this, and the actual is 20 to 1. So it's not the problem why the speculation jumped to the oil, because they lost trust in interest rate, because today it's a negative interest rate. So the bank suffers. They cannot even, you know, work in negative. And then the oil, then real estate is under a lot of pressures. So to invest in real estate also is very concerned. Also in currencies, it's very, very fluctuations. You cannot trust what will. So what they find out is oil and gold.
Yes, you are right, Your Secretary, Your Excellency. The challenge for the oil producers now are a bit different than
Before.
72 when
Yeah.
you started to come to OPEC meetings and when you became the chairman, ranging from the macroeconomic conditions to the shale oil, as you mentioned, the share of OPEC exchange. Moving from gas to oil and oil to another area that we know you keep a good eye, and you were the, if I'm not wrong, chair of the UNFCCC, the climate change. You keep a close eye on the climate change issues. How do you see after Paris? We had a very important agreement in Paris last December. Since we are in Paris, how do you see the energy and climate nexus in the next years to come? How it could affect the energy mix, including renewables, for example?
Okay, I have a lot of experience in the environmental and even in the CAPs. I've been elected 2011-12 as the chairman and the president of CAP 18. So that time, as an oil minister, we work also in our job, we always very carefully about CO2. We always raise a lot of funds and study and research how to reinject CO2, how to use CO2 in enhance oil recovery. So we all, we are care about energy. But one of the analysts wrote in one of the international newspapers, say, whoa, why they choose an oil minister as president of climate change? This is abnormal. This is, dangerous. This is, And somebody asked me, did you read this, article? I said, yes. So why? But I said, why? All the climate change conference before was chaired by ministers of foreign affairs, not minister of environment. Why politicians? At least minister of energy better than politician. You know the job. So anyway, when we convince the conference, 15,000 people, 195 NGOs, all the whole world there, 3 weeks of negotiation. I find out, it's very strange, that the most negotiation leader teams, most they came from foreign affairs, are politicians, not technical. So I find what I was searching, what behind it. So when I start, negotiated with individuals or with groups, sometimes with groups, and I found it's very funny groups there. For instance, European Union, they came one group, but then they call me a new group. What this group, they say, I found India, China, Australia, Hungary, Germany. So they are jumping from group to group to group. So different, there are same faces, but with different groups. Umbrella group, Kangaroo group, many groups with different names. So I said, it's a very interesting how they are in 5 groups together. I see, once, umbrella group, they call themselves, came to me. Next day, he came with the kangaroo group. I said, yesterday with umbrella, what happened now with the kangaroo? So the time, I find out, let me be carefully and frankly, because this is I'm not a politician. Politicians, sometimes they say 1 + 1, 4 - 2. But we say 1 + 1 is 2, direct. So the time I find out, the title is nice, climate change. But inside there is no climate change. They are interested. When, for instance, Canadians walk out from the Kyoto Agreement, I ask with the negotiation with the Canadian team, why? They said, we have sand oil, produce a lot of CO2. We cannot commit it. Alberta state will be revolt against all the federal government. It's an interest. I cannot blame them, for sure. Now, even in the Union, in European Union, Poland has different aspects. and than the others. So even European Union have no solidarity. So they have divided. Then we find out that USA, after shale gas, export coal to Germany. So Germany start also to use American coal. So it's different, the way of how to produce and the commitment of 20% of CO2 reductions or emissions by 2020, no one would accept it. USA is out of the Q2. India, China, Russia. So I calculate who agree now, who the rest, who signed for the commitment of the Q2 is only 20%, only countries who produce only 20% of the whole emission. The country who produce 80% of the emission, they are out of the Q2. So we trying, either they try to block the conference not to have any conclusion, and the others, we're trying, to produce whatever we can produce, as we're saying, let's to go for Poland with a map road. That how they will, after the expiry of Q2, what they will do. It's a challenge in the way of interest. I mean, one of the country, the big country, who produce a lot of CO2, he told me frankly, he said, Chairman, don't give me a gun and tell me shoot myself. I cannot commit it. I'm an emerging country. I use a lot of coal. I use a lot of fuel. Because I have to create a lot of job. I have to make more growth. So I cannot, commit it. So even though, one of my, challenge, on the time, I met with a group, what they call themselves, the underdeveloped countries. This is a nice title, but it means the poorest country in the world. So they came to me, and they say to me, Chairman, in Copenhagen they promised us $100 billion fund. Now we are waiting after Cancun, after Johannesburg. Now we are waiting until Doha. We are waiting for this fund. I said, I was not in Copenhagen first, and I cannot tell you where this fund. Oh yeah, the problem in Copenhagen that attended by many head of state. I don't like it. When I see a conference attending with a lot of head of state, it means a politician speech promising, and then they leave, and they never come back. So they promised these people with 100 billion, and I told them, I promise to you, I will search this fortune on behalf of you, but I will never find it. Who you will blame? When the politician came in Copenhagen, head of state, they say, so I went to European, group, and I said, these guys, they ask you that what you promised to them in Copenhagen. See, he tried to explain some of them. Oh, Europe is different than before. After Greek, after other crises, we cannot afford So, but we can propose to find another fund. It's a way that is, and also I cannot blame them. So this is the problem with the politicians. They promise a lot, and always I say, don't trust politician before election, because he will promise a lot of, but after election, he will forget it. So the way that the climate change and all, not the problem with, the hydrocarbon or vis-a-vis, the climate change or, but the problem who will commit it to reduce the emission. Even in Paris, when they say a Q2 is expired, we will create a new map road, in my experience, also, this way that will take you another 50 years, because no one will promise it.
Your Excellency, we will go to the questions now. We discuss oil, gas, climate change, and we had a of course, in Paris, we had a very successful meeting. Heads of states were there, at least some of them, and we had an agreement. Hopefully, it will not take so long because we don't have much there. But if you allow me, Your Excellency, I will ask the floor if colleagues have some questions in their mind to raise and with you and get some answers. Who would like to ask a question to Your Excellency? Ambassador of Netherlands. I think you know Mr. Noé van Hulst. He was the former Secretary General of IEF, and he is, of course.
Your Excellency, does this thing work?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was fascinating to listen to you again, and I noticed that I aged a lot, but in the last 5 years you only became younger. So my compliments.
With the oil price.
My compliments for that.
Up and down.
Yes, you're tightening the belt. I see that, and I can witness, by the way, for the audience that indeed Mr. Al-Attiyah was always very moderate on when the prices went over 100. You were always saying, you know, don't think it will stay like this. But my question is on the future of your country. You described how it was built basically on gas. So if you take it, you know, if we fast forward, everybody is talking about the energy transition. We touched about it just now. So what does it mean for your country? How do you see that Qatar has to prepare also for a future where the world eventually will use much less oil and gas?
Okay, this is a good question, you know, because also in Qatar, you know, I'm not, you know, in Qatar we don't only independent in LNG. When I was a minister, I said we have a huge gas, we have to divide it, not only LNG. We don't want to create all our in one basket. So I was a big support for GTL. So Qatar today is the biggest GTL producers in the world. We produce totally more than 200,000 barrels of GTL products as diesel, naphtha, lube oil, and other. And you know, this product is a high quality. Also, we introduced our hydrocarbon industry. We expanded. Today, Qatar, one of the biggest producers in fertilizers, petrochemicals. Helium, we are number 2 in the world because we find some helium content in our gas. We extract it. Today we are the biggest helium exporter in the world and the second producer in the world after US. So also we produce methanol, MTBE, ECE, VCM, so the aluminium, steel. So we are a big, now we create a big chain. We export to 95 countries in the world from all different products. So we diversification our basket, you know. We want to industrialize the country. In the same time, we try to sell fine products. But in the end of the day, is a hydrocarbon. Qatar is a very, very dry country. We have no water resource at all. I can guarantee you 12 months of sunshine, but I cannot guarantee you 1 day raining. I can assume that, you know, in what we are today, all our water desalination came from desalination. So we have, you know, what our challenge after oil and gas. The challenge is power and water. So we have diversification, we can't do many, but in power, okay, we have mostly, we are concentrate now and more study, more solar, because sunshine, you know, sun is guaranteed, you know, all the year. So now the best is not thermal, not wind, is solar. So now the government is putting a lot of efforts and putting a lot of research in the solar. Now water also, it's a big challenge. But also we try, you know, to see that how to produce power, steam from solar and to desalination. You know, we will continue in desalination. But this is the challenge, you know. I always, my foundation is, you know, I create after, you know, I left the government, I asked myself what I should do. I have a proposal, officially came from OPEC, to appointed me the new Secretary General. And I reject this proposal. I reject it because I believe that I worked as a civil servant for a long time. I don't want to go back to have a new bosses. I want to work. So then I say I will create, for the first time in the Middle East, a foundation, non-profit foundation. It's a think tank. No belong to any government, no belong to any influence. We talk with everyone. We talk with many. This is what I, discuss with my good friend Fathi Birol, how we take my foundation and with IIA, with their big experience, how we can cooperate and we can work together with the workshop, because we can create a more transparent challenge to the whole world. We are not representative governments. We don't representative companies. We have no interest with. We are not promoters. We are not in business. We are always in. This is the way that people ask me. Normally, they say when oil ministers left, or any politician left, he create his lobby or promoters, or he try to promote business to be middlemen and to take some fees. I say this is not my interest. And this is what what I believe, that the challenge of Qatar will be a big challenge. All oil producers will be a big challenge. And this is one of I raise a big question to all oil producers. What after oil and gas? What you're preparing for the future? When we say oil and gas, if you say total reserve, for instance, let's to say 100 years. 100 years for me and for you is long, but for generation is short. So this is the big challenge, and we will continue to to focus closely to it.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Other questions, Madam Ambassador from Norway?
Well, thank you very much for a very interesting lecture, Your Excellency. As you know, well, you've just been to Oslo, and we have a very, very good cooperation between Qatar and Norway for many, many years on fertilizers, starting 40 years ago, and also on this aluminium that was actually opened in 2010. So yeah, and I also been to Qatar, actually to Doha in 2001, launching the WTO Doha Development Agenda. That was a big thing then. It hasn't gone that well after. And you were talking about international negotiations and politicians, and I think we have the same problems in trade as in the climate change, actually, to actually deliver on promises. One of my questions is about carbon capture and storage, because we in Norway we are really preoccupied with that. We think that could be and should be a part of the climate change commitments. And my other question is, because I was intrigued by what you said about LNG transportation. Overcapacity in shipbuilding and transportation is huge these days. So how are you doing on your LNG transportation ships and these days?
Okay, thank you very much, Madam. I am very interested, for your question. First of all, about the CO2 capture. I signed that time, with Imperial College and Shell Corporation, a joint studies that carried by Imperial College. So we will finance it, us and Shell, and they will nominate 55 scientists in Imperial College to study about what the best use of CO2. How we have two lines: use CO2 captures or use it in enhanced oil recovery, released gas. I just know Nasser, what is the latest?
Yes.
After I left, Nasser is still board of director of QB, and he's a board of my trustee too, and he's an old guard with me in Qatar Petroleum for a long time.
Thank you. At least Fatih didn't give me the opportunity to earn my seats sitting on the podium, so I'll take my advantage now. Being in a QP and being, of course, with His Excellency for most of his tenure during his the period that he worked with the QP. I was before him, and I survived him as well till recently. Not many people have survived him.
I like
it. But one of the characteristics of His Excellency, of course, he's oversimplified a very complex business to make it very simple. You know, I mean, the journey which we have taken with him for 20 years has been a very, 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 I would say, hard, sleepless night, hardworking to be able to reach where we have reached. And the vision that His Excellency had laid down for QP, which it comes from the time, from the top leadership, where the Qatari, I would call it, business model, especially QP business model, how we succeeded by aligning ourselves with the best of this world, the best market, the best technology, and the best companies that we work out with. And of course, on top of this, cleaning the company and making sure the company is very transparent and it's just, and it goes directly, deals exactly with who we has to deal. That is the success which is made, but it took really hard work to make it work. Coming back to the carbon capture, Your Excellency, you mentioned, although QP we emit and we produce a lot of hydrocarbon and we emit a lot of CO2, but we are committed. I have to say, what His Excellency signed with Imperial College is actually like almost 5 or 6 years ago, and we're still continuing, and we are endeavoring to take in, because we know that produce one of the largest gas in the world, and we will continue for many years, and we produce a lot of CO2, and we know that the CO2, there is an advantage to it. This is an opportunity. We have to take it to our advantage, and we know our production of oil is dwindling, and we need to bring it back because the primary phase has been finished, the secondary phase is finished, the tertiary, almost we are in the tertiary, and now we're going to the enhanced oil field. We are aging fields, and we need this type of fuel to make it happen. But on top of this, recently QP, where we has established together with a company called Nebras, which is a company to deal with power, which is basically the international arm of the power company in the States, to invest outside Qatar, a joint venture between Qatar Electricity and Water Company, which His Excellency chaired again for 15 or 16 years. I had the privilege to work with him during this period. And also with Qatar Investment Authority, which is the government sovereign fund, and QP. QP recently pulled out of Nebras for a simple reason, to say we do not want to invest in something that this company invests, which is coal. We want to be artful. We cannot be hypocritical. On one side, we want to promote clean energy, but in the meantime, we go ahead and invest with you, although because the return on investment on those is not, because we are a major player. We are not only major producer. If we want to be major player, we have to act large, and we have to basically show to the world that we are basically credible. And that's how QP, the current management, is going ahead with it, and we are determined to go it. And we are established a solar company together with the Qatar Electricity Company, supported by the government. QP gave a big concessions in terms of its land, because QP owns a large land, because you need it for all these reflectors. So there are determinations on going to that direction. We know that the gas is transit, I would say, fuel for the future. We will be there for many years. I don't think the oil will never vanish. I think the gas will not vanish from our scene. But we know the role of this fuel will reduce. Like what we are trying to do today, as His Excellency mentioned, we don't see, we know that the LNG business will increase. Qatar's share today is 30%. In 5 to 10 years' time, would probably go from 15 to 20%. What do? Do we sit and watch the world, or we start creating a new hub? We believe a US hub is important. We believe an African hub is important. If we want to remain as a major player, if we want to be just a normal producer, as a humble producer, it's fine. So that's why we are moving. Qatar is blessed because with His Excellency's policies before, we invested in infrastructure, we have the transportation, and we have, of course, that expertise and the most important things of the right alliances. We have the Shell of this world, we have the Exxon, we have the Total, and we have many other companies, of course, on this around with us to be able to move together into the next phase. So I think we are. It's so important that transportation because you have that because you can leverage. Because we can move gas wherever we want to move it, where others probably are not able to do it. Coming back to the pipeline, just to mention this as a remark, because we always put the supply ahead of the demand, which we have taken a major risk during the 1990s, many people challenged us. We said we became contrarian, basically. We said we not believe whatever people say here. Let's do what we believe in with our instinct. We committed major projects in 2004, 2005, where the EPC contracts were cheap. Have we waited another year? Probably we could not have made these mega projects. Then we put the supply ahead of the demand. That supply helped us later on to mitigate all the gaps that's created. But let me say one word. With the pipeline, other than which we've created between UAE and Qatar and UAE, the Dolphin, history have told us all the pipeline in the Middle East did not live more than its half-life cycle. All went into kaput. No matter you started good, at the end of the day, it goes on. From the tap line, from Saudi Arabia, all the way to the Mediterranean, onward. So the geopolitics of the area will never have helped you to go on. We tried with Kuwait, of course it didn't work. With the UAE, is working very well. So with that, I'd like to conclude.
Yeah,
Thank
I think,
you very much.
also Her Excellency asked for transportation of gas, was I right? And we don't build it, We built it in Korea. The first time, the time Europe was building the LNG, I remember in the 90s, I visited Turkey. You are aware one participated, to build LNG, but unfortunately, all Europe shipyard was closed. It's very expensive for them to build no more. So they moved to Japan. Japan, then they closed. Then Korea, they control the whole LNG ships. So Hyundai, Daewoo, and Samsung, they were the three dry docks. Then China went later on by the support of the French technology.
The first phase was in Japan. Huh?
In Japan, yes. In Japan. It was being
the 140.
Compete with Spain and Scotland, but then Europe cannot compete in that time. So mostly if you see Europe, the first time, French technology is one of the first technology for the LNG. But today you cannot see any Europe. All Europe shipyards is closed because of the high cost. Now, China started, the first time 5 years ago to build the first conventional LNG with the support of a French, technology. So the time now, but we built in Qatar one of the biggest dry dock in the Middle East, taking advantage of a lot of ships we have, for LNG and LPG and others, and oil and others, other companies who want to give them services of maintenance and other of a big ships, up to, even carriers, even, the biggest ship in the world, even cruise. We can, give full maintenance there. It's one of the biggest dry dock, in the Middle East, because we want to have a full complementary. We built the biggest LNG port in the world, the big shipping line in the world, the biggest maintenance and dry dock in the world. So we are today a complementary that we can manage our business from A to Z. We cannot just miss one and wait for how to complete it. Today we are, we work, we move our, business as a chess. I'm not a good player in chess, but sometimes I use these versions, but we can say, okay, I have all ships now. I have customers who want extra ship, so I can move better than the others, because he knows that I am the fastest.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Other questions for His Excellency? From the floor. Mr. Mandi said, you were talking about your bosses, and Claude Mandi is one of my former bosses. Exactly.
He's in a very, I know when he was in the technical school. So in everywhere time I came around, Claude in front of me.
Mr. Mandi.
Sorry, it's me again.
Oh, I'm very happy to see you. You are a very good friend, and I have to admit it.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Noé van Hulst asked you a question on the future of Qatar when there will be less oil and gas used in the world. And I would like to raise the same question, but not for Qatar, for the OPEC as an organization. And I have in mind a similarity with the IEA. I mean that when the IEA was created, it was mainly to address security of supply concerns. And of course, it was a necessity at the time, and it is still a necessity right now with the emergency preparedness and the emergency stocks. But the IEA understood, and its member countries understood that it was not enough, and that it was also a need for the IEA to become a kind of think tank, an advisory board for the energy policies of the member countries, and in particular within the general context of global warming and climate change. And I think it worked very well. And I was wondering whether the OPEC as an organization could not become the think tank of its member countries to address the main issue they face, which is diversification of their economies when there will be less oil and gas sold on the market.
Yeah, it's a very important question, and it's a very long question, and it's a very confused answer, because every country, a member of OPEC, has its own problems.
And like the IEA.
Yeah, like IEA.
I mean, cheap oil.
Yeah. So the problem with today, if you see OPEC members, for instance, if you see back Indonesia, they became a net exporter. So they are out.
Still a member.
If you see some of them, they are declining and depleted their resource. So it's a different change, how to play it. If you see now what happened in Nigeria and the Delta, and most of the time they are not produced because of the violations, because of the uncertainty in the Delta tribes, and even with the major producers, and even in Abuja. If you see that also in Libya, what happened now, uncertainty today we hear announced this captured the port, next day another one captured the port, after the day another one, third one captured other port. So we don't know sometimes port as rating places in Libya. We don't know whom captured every day another one who captured the ports. So the time even you remember this, the famous smuggling tank who came to take some oil and then floating, and then everyone was watchdog this ship. So you see the problem today. OPEC countries, mostly they are from developed and underdeveloped countries. They have a lot of problems. Not though, but only they produce oil, but also they have a political instability, sociality, uncertainty. So it's not the problem of oil, the problem in how the future of some of them as countries, where they have civil wars, they have uncertainty, they have backward of economies, they have corruption, so there are a lot of questions, need a lot of solution. You cannot just come in OPEC and give a small prescription, say how it's the bigger than what they. Oil is only a part of revenue. Sometimes this revenue is disappeared. And sometimes the people pay the whole cost. If the challenge today, when I was 2006 or 7, I was elected in the United Nations the president of the Sustainable Development Conference. You know, it's a big conference. Also, as a General Assembly, I was chaired that one for 1 year. You know, one of my texts say, don't talk about what a rich country will do for poor country, what the funds. Take first about what the disease face this all country is corruption. Let's to focus on corruptions. Let's to say how to eliminate corruption first. You see the problem? In my experience, I saw a lot of rich countries, rich, full of resource. They have everything, water, oil, gas, everything, but they are very poor. They are very starving. They are even very thirsty. They have huge water, but they cannot drink it. So this is the problem. This is the challenge. How we can, to full. If you have if you are a doctor and I am your patient, you just don't look. You will not look just for my eyes. Say, oh, you have some. You have to have. You treat me all. I'm coming to see you with a lot of diseases. You have to treat all my diseases. You just not wait and say one small disease, oh, you have cold, take this Panadol and go. And you lift and you close your eyes in my other disease. This is the problem when we come to OPEC, we came to see the challenge. Even they are very sensitive in that time. I remember when we talk about corruption in energy. Once I asked with me and the International Transparent, in Germany, International Transparency Organization, I agree with them to invite for a big conference called Corruption in the Energy Sector. So we invite a lot of leaders from Africa, from many parts, to join this conference in Doha. I was so, with the Transparency Organization trying to put the time when I became a minister, as Mr. Nasser Jada say, we put a parallel, say no middleman, no agent, no consultancy. Any major companies work with me, sign an amicable legality that he worked direct. You see the problem with, the same time there used to be promoters. Then they change it to middlemen. Then after they say no, then they create a new way to play they say consultancy. So we say no consultancy. Because it's only a game of the corruptions. And we put it very, even with our buyers, we say direct. No promoters. Sometimes I remember many people came with a bag. I said, oh, I have customers in India. I said, sorry, we don't want you. We go to India directly. We don't need promoters. Many people came and say, I have customers in China. I said, thank you very much. I know where China. So this is the problem, When you talk with all these guys, and sometimes, they facilitate, and sometimes, unfortunately, they convince some politicians, they can play the game. So then he said, give me just a piece of paper, show that I represent it to you. So it's a game, So this is the game. I can write a book about it, and I will. But, you see, Mr. Mandela, the problem, we cannot just prescribe for OPEC. OPEC what? Mostly they are developed or underdeveloped. They only have resource, is a depleted resource, sell it and maximize it. But they have a lot of other diseases that is more that complementary that when we tackle it, and when we say what the future after oil and gas, it's really very concern. Not concern of them, some of them, but concern of people who will inherit it to go back where they never benefit from their natural resource. They see it, they smell it, but they never test it. The other test it. The other swallow it. But them, they are only sea. So now if you see how they smuggle pipes, how this, they are not trust about their future, how you see people with a lot of huge natural resource, even they have no food to eat. I mean, whatever in the GCC country happened, whatever, I'm not saying that GCC country is very ideal, but there are some. But at least they use their resource in how to create a better society. To create good schools, good education, good infrastructures, good, life, good, to prepare the countries to be prepared after oil and gas. So whatever has happened, I'm not saying defended that we are the best, but we are at least better than the others who, maximize the revenue to build modern countries, to prepare for the future, bring the best universities, bring best, infrastructures, industry, the best technology, so we can play and we can have a very good experience. Now we are main players in every part of the world. In the hydrocarbon industries or in the other industries, we are manufacturing. Even we are not that big population, but we're still trying to be and to give a good example of no one is ideal. I know corruption in every part of the world. No one pretending. Even if you see the transparency, last way that I saw Qatar number 22, and I said, oh, we are better even than UK and USA and France. So we believe that if we see my country is in the rank of 22, that it means we are number one in the whole Arab country or Middle East. And we are better than even France and UK and USA. Okay, we can admit that the 10 countries always the Scandinavians, and I don't know why, because they are the best. We should admit it. The ambassador of Norway should be proud of that, they are the best. Yes, we should admit it. I've been in Sweden, I've been in Finland, I've been in Denmark, I saw how the system there. They have a very good system, very transparent system. And governance.
Governance,
yes. They know that, even, I will tell you shortly, when I went to Sweden, Norway, I know Norway history in the early 70s, they were the poorest country in the whole Europe. All the Norwegians across the sea work in Sweden as a driver and mate. Only, hydro was established only to follow the Solomon. Only the time, Norway trying to survive, but they are tough life. When they discover huge oil, you know what they did? I went to their parliament, and I sit with one of the old guy. He is the chairman of the energy committee in that time, in the 90s. He was telling me a very strange story. I have to tell you now. He said, when we discover oil, and we are so poor people, we are so frightened what will happen with these poor people with a huge fortune. We don't want people to spoil it. So he said, who is close to us in the same time? They say the Gulf countries. It used to be they are very poor people. And we were 60 years in Qatar. We have no school, no electricity, no even doctor, no even hospital, no even nothing at all, no even public school. So they send a delegation as a tourist to visit the whole country. They find some positive, but also some negative. They find that people become more spoiling, more consumers, relax, after very poor to relax. So they became, they never look to the past. They become more spoiling. So they, in a way, took the good and also learned from the negative. So they say we will create a nation that they will never be spoiled. Live good, but don't live over rich or become a rich man. Become a productive We secure school, we secure education, health, and sovereignty fund for every Norwegian is born. So this is a way of the example, how you learn from the others. We never learned before us in the hour, because back in Qatar, when I asked my mother or my grandfather I said, in 1950, that time, only in 1950, we had in Qatar, we have no power at electricity at all. We have even no public school at all. We have no even a doctor. 10 children. Out of 10 children, 6 children in Qatar died before 2 years. 30% of women die for first delivery. And the average of life, less than 50. And when we discovered oil that time, and the first cargo left Qatar 49, the first public school was opened 51. Even they cannot find one teacher in Qatar. So they brought a lot of teachers from many countries, from Arab countries, from Egypt, Lebanon, Syria, Palestine. And we have very famous people now in the Arab countries who were teachers in Qatar, as President Mahmoud Abbas from Palestine and others who lived in Qatar, who came and he was a teacher. Many of them, they were teachers in Qatar, and then they went back and they became leaders in their own country.
Your Excellency, this is excellent, the history of Qatar from where to where. Now, we have discussed the history of Qatar, LNG, oil, climate change, OPEC. By the way, you say OPEC, IEA, just to give you one example, also Mr. Nasser mentioned, the OPEC IEA roles are a bit not as clear as it was before. Yeah. In the last 5 years, IEA member countries, oil production growth was 3 times higher than the OPEC member countries. Yes. And the OPEC member countries, oil consumption growth was 3 times higher than the IEA countries. So the consumer producer, the roles are not as it was defined several years ago. I have one final question. I have to stop here because it's an amazing discussion, I'm sure, as you are. We are witnessing the history here, what Mr. Al-Attiyah wrote in terms of LNG and the history of Qatar. One question, in fact, this question was asked to me by many IEA colleagues to ask you. In 6 years of time, there is hopefully a very important event in Qatar. And there are questions whether or not this event will take place. It is the World Cup for football. Are we going to see a successful World Cup of football in Qatar? This is number one. Number two, who will be the champion? So these are the 2 questions.
Okay. First of all, I would like to thank you for all your questions, your all trust in us. I was not telling a story. I was telling just an example how from a poor country to be a rich country, how we can, as Claude, my good friend Claude asked me about other OPEC countries, how to balance corruption. All this question is a very, very sensitive question. I know that today there are no consumer producers. How you think that France is a consumer and they have Total, they are one of the biggest producers in the world. So how you can segregate the producers and consumer? They produce and they consume, but they produce too. And how about this big IOC as the Shell, Dutch, and others? They are a big producers. And at the same time, if the World Cup, okay, this is the first time in the Middle East. First time in Islamic countries, for instance, and at the same time, it's something that should become before that time, to any one of them. But finally, as the French came late, better than never came. There are some people, some unfortunately, who stood against Qatar all the time, trying, to break Qatari ability. They create a lot of stories about laborers, about others, about, and it's a very, very interesting, country. When we say they talk about foreign laborers in Qatar. We are attracting millions of people who work in Qatar. We are a big resource of foreign currency to many countries in Asia, India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Nepal, and other. We create many jobs for them. Today, you know, it's very strange when you hear the ambassador of India, ambassador of Nepal, and other saying, please don't tell this negative story. We are the benefit from the foreign currency resource. We say once asked me, one foreign British newspaper, I said, okay, are you care about the many people who labor in Qatar? We treat them very bad, as you say, take them to London. They are not, they are free to come and free to leave. If they don't like it, they will never stay. Why they stay? But you always, you stay when you benefit from, you stay. No one force you. It's not slavery. And no one forced you to stay. We request hundreds of thousands of jobs every year who would like to come to work there. Labor in Qatar, you know, they never pay income tax, they never pay sales tax, they never pay, and they can transfer their salary with no restriction. So it's a heaven for them to come and to work. But unfortunately, sometimes they talk to you about homosexual rights. Sometimes, you know, they don't, understand. We never mention it. We never even Qatar for the last study from United Nations, Qatar is number 2 in the world of the safest country in the world. Go and check it. After Finland or Denmark, one of them, Qatar number 2 in the world and the safest country in the world. We are very proud that we are very safe. We are very proud. We are one of the lowest crime rate in the world. We are very proud that the only country, or the rare country, you can work, you can sleep, and your house is open. You can leave your car in the street. We are very proud that no one, you cannot even see beggars in the street. You can see a very clean country. You can see a very happy nation. Even we have a lot of foreigners who work in Qatar from the whole world. Europeans, Americans, Australians. We have a lot of Australians, Your Excellency, in Qatar. Many of them. So we have a lot of, Norwegian. We have all nationality in the whole world, in the surfers. And we have a lot of Turks for sure, our good friend. So no one is trying, just, to create a small story that even is not affected. You cannot cry in behalf of others who never cry. It's very strange sometimes from European journalists. They cry in behalf of Indians or Pakistani neighbors or Bangladesh who never complain. So no one is forcing you to cry in the behalf just because it's a hidden agenda. I'm sure we'll be one of the successful. And I can assuring you, no one will steal your clothes or your bag there, as the others what happened in other countries. I'm sure that you will be more safe. You walk a day and night. I'm sure that you will enjoy the most beautiful small country in the world. You will enjoy it. So please, don't just trying to break or, just trying to create what they call conspiracy theory, and you create a story never exists.
So, Your Excellency, we will have the...
Who's the champion?
Exactly, you didn't answer that question.
Champion?
So, this is the easy part. This is the easy part.
Yeah. Okay.
This is the easy part.
Okay, maybe I will be the champion.
No. Which country? Which country?
I think I think Qatar and Turkey will play the final.
This is excellent. So, Your Excellency, this is a great honor for International Energy Agency, for me, for my colleagues here. We really enjoyed very much. It was also very pedagogical for us. We learned a lot. And please do join me to thank His Excellency Al-Attiyah for this great discussion. Thank you very much, His Excellency.
I just want to thank you for your patience to listen to me. And I would like to thank Fathi for inviting me. Fathi is a long friend, and I'm confident he will do a great job in IA, and he will be one of the successful, General Secretary. I would like to thank His Excellency, the Ambassador of Australia, for hosting in this very beautiful embassy. And also, I heard that he invited us for free lunch. This is also good news.
We have now a reception.
So,
altogether, Mr. Nassau is going to join us, and please enjoy the reception here. One final thing, Your Excellency, if there is such a final, Turkey will be the champion for sure against Qatar. So this, I should say that we are looking forward to this wonderful event in Qatar. I am sure that you'll be an excellent host in that meeting. Everybody is invited by His Excellency in the VIP lounge. Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you. Your Excellency, thank you very much. It's amazing. Thank you very much. Thank you.